Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission on February 5th to order. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Aton,
Here.
Secretary Grant,
Here.
Member Childs,
Here.
Member Faison,
Here.
Member Gerard.
Here.
All right, thank you. So we have a quorum, and we have some new members this evening. I would like to say I'm Dan Ayton. I'm the Vice Chairman. Chairman Richardson has chosen to not renew his term, so I'm taking over for this evening for this meeting, and would like to thank former Chairman Richardson for all of his effort. He is a big help to me, and I think the whole commission. So appreciate that. Chelsea?
Thank you. I'd like to first invite Janae Mack up to the podium to be sworn in. Good evening, Ms. Mack. Please raise your right hand and place your hand on the Bible and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Janae Mack,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and government
and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic or foreign,
domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear
and that I will bear
true faith,
true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
loyalty, and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and that I am entitled
and that I am entitled
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution,
under the Constitution,
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
all of the duties
all of the duties
of the office
of the office
of the Planning and Zoning Commission
of the Planning and Zoning Commission
of the City of Titusville,
of the City of Titusville,
on which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, dear, and congratulations. You may now take your seat up at the dais. I would now like to invite Mr. John Scully to also join me at the podium. Sir, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, John Scully,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform,
that I will perform,
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and government
and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic or foreign,
domestic or foreign,
and that I will bear
and that I will bear
true faith,
true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
loyalty, and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and that I am entitled
and that I'm entitled
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution,
under the Constitution,
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
all of the duties
all of the duties
of the office
of the office
of the Planning and Zoning Commission
of the Planning and Zoning Commission
of the City of Titusville,
of the City of Titusville,
on which I am about to enter.
in which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Dear. Appreciate your time and take your seat up at the dais.
We don't do any hazing, so just making it through that is enough. So, welcome. With that, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Could I get a motion or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you, Member Childs.
Second.
Thank you, Member Gerard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign if you any disapprove. Motion passes. Chelsea, would you read the quasi-judicial procedures?
Yes, tonight's agenda provides the following notice. All persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the council chamber or may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance to the procedures adopted in Resolution Number 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first, those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary. A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and will be retained by the city. Please submit such exhibits to the recording secretary. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is petitions and requests from the public present. You do not need to have filled out a card. If anyone has anything they would like to say, just step forward. Anybody? All right. How about our new members? Do you guys have anything you want to tell us about yourself or say anything?
I just want to thank everyone for the warm welcome, and I look forward to working with all y'all. And I heard you're a great group of people, so I'm looking forward to whatever we encounter over the next year or so. Thank you so much for having me.
I too will echo that. I definitely appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for all my family and friends who have shown their support. My Aunt Mamie, the matriarch of our family, is present. My pastor came, a lot of my friends and family here, so I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to this journey with you all.
Great, thank you, and welcome. Under old business, last meeting, we tabled the election of officers to give us an opportunity to add new members. I will let you take this, Chelsea, since this is outside of my experience here.
So typically when we have an election of officers for any board or commission, we first start with the chairman and then move on to the vice chairman and secretary. Those three positions are all up for renewal when we do this item. And the way we usually proceed with nominations is that the chair, once he's opened up this item, I'll do this introduction, and then the next step will be for one of the board members to make a nomination. The chair will typically ask for nominations, and then by pressing your microphone to speak, you can nominate an individual. And if you can ask after one person is named, if there are any other nominations. And at that time, it depends on how many nominations you've received for each position. If you have just one, then it would be a roll call or unanimous vote for approval. And if there's multiple, then you would have yays and nays for the names, one at a time for each position. So again, you'll start with nominations for the chairperson, and then once that item is concluded, you'll open up the nominations for vice chair. And once that item is concluded, you will open up the nominations for secretary, and each item will be voted on by the commission. And because it is a decision that's voted on, there is public comment allowed.
Thank you. So, sounds like first step is open up nominations for the chair. Member Grant.
I would like to nominate Mr. Childs. I think he's earned it.
Anyone else have nomination? Mr. Gerard.
I was going to second the nomination.
Okay, a second. Anyone else?
I nominate you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have a second for that?
I second.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we do a roll call, or we do yays and nays on those two nominations? Is that?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to take the first nomination and ask for the yays and nays, and then to determine if that majority has been obtained.
Okay,
And then, unless you would like to withdraw your nomination. So first, the individual needs to accept. Each of the individuals need to accept.
I accept.
and I'll accept.
Okay. So yes, if you can have a roll call vote for the nomination for Member Childs and Member Aton, I guess the members can say which member they would like to vote for. That would be the most efficient way to move forward with this. And then whichever one of you has 4 or more votes will be the succeeding chairperson.
Okay, then roll call, I guess.
Member Faison,
Member Aton?
Member Childs,
Childs?
Secretary Grant,
Mr. Childs.
Member Mag,
Member Aton?
Member Aton,
Member Aton.
Member Mack,
You already asked her.
I didn't hear an answer.
Oh,
Turn on your mic, please, yeah.
sorry.
Thank you.
We needed the.
Member
turn.
Aton.
Okay. Member Gerard,
Member Aton.
Member Scully,
Member Aton.
So,
So the votes have Member Aton as the chairperson.
thank you. Thank you for the support. With that, we need a nomination for vice chair.
Mr. Childs.
All right, thank you. Member Grant?
Second, Mr. Childs for Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Any other nominations for vice chair? Do you accept vice chair?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I
Okay.
accept it.
Well, since there's nobody against you, and I think that's a great choice. So vice chairman, and we need a secretary. Member Garag?
Do we need to,
No, I think since he's nobody,
You can just say, is it unanimous?
or is it unanimous? Okay.
No roll call.
And the board members can say aye if they agree with the unanimous
Okay.
vice chairman position for Mr. Childs.
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, welcome. All right, and nominations, let's see. Member Mack, I don't know if you know about turning your light off when you're done, so you're next in line, but if you don't have anything, okay. Now, we need a nomination for secretary. Member Gerard.
I'd nominate Mr. Grant, recurring position.
Second.
Seconded by Member Childs. And he accepts. Any other nominations? Okay, all the members approve.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You got it again? So that concludes. That concludes that item, correct? Okay, we have no new business until we get down to number 1, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment, SSA number 10-2024. Take it away, Eddie.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. This is item 8D1, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment number 10-2024, Grannis Ave Quadruplex. The item begins on page 11 of 67 of tonight's agenda packet. And I'll read the summary out loud. The applicant is requesting a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment with rezoning to bring an existing multifamily residential use, a quadruplex, into conformance with the city's future land use map and zoning. The property is triangular with frontage on 3 roadways, North Grannis Avenue, Norwood Avenue, and Jones Street. The property is generally located east of Dray Field Stormwater Park and south of North Washington Avenue, US 1. There is an existing multifamily residential structure, quadruplex, on the property, which was made a non-conforming use when the zoning was changed from multifamily high-density residential R3 to community commercial CC during the citywide administrative rezoning in 1993, presumably to make the zoning consistent with the city's 1981 land use plan. Later, City Council adopted the Park and Dixie Avenue Small Area Study in 2008, which acknowledged the non-conforming residential use on the subject property and recommended changing the future land use designation on this and several neighboring properties to one of the residential designations. If the request is not approved, the existing structure will remain a non-conforming use. A non-conforming use which is destroyed by more than 50% of the assessed value of the structure may not be rebuilt or repaired. City Council could confirm the intent to retain this land for commercial uses by denying the request and retaining the existing CC zoning district. The zoning and land use history. The R3 zoning district was applied to the subject property in 1964. In 1980, the city's existing land use map identified the subject property as residential. In 1981, the city adopted a land use plan that designated the subject property and several others to the east as commercial high intensity. In 1993, the citywide rezoning changed zoning on the property from R3 to CC. And in 2008, the City Council adopted the Park and Dixie Small Area Study The study acknowledged the nonconforming residential uses on the property surrounded by Jones Street, Robbins Avenue, and Norwood Avenue South, which includes the subject property. Further, the study recommended changing the future land use designation on these properties to one of the residential designations. However, this was not completed. So I'll point the commission to a couple pages just to help guide the discussion tonight. Page 16, line 9. Just wanted to read that out loud. The applicant did not submit a concept plan with the request. Therefore, the analysis in this report considers the maximum allowable build-out scenario of 15 dwelling units per acre under the requested high-density residential future land use designation and the R3 zoning. For a property 0.3 acres in size, this yields a maximum of 4 dwelling units. Next, on page 19, line 26, I wanted to call out this specific policy from the comprehensive plan. It's objective 1.6 that says encourage the elimination or reduction of land use which are inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and gradually reduce them towards eventual elimination. And the staff comment is the existing residential quadruplex was constructed prior to adoption of the 1981 land use plan, which designated the property as commercial high intensity. The nonconforming residential use has existed for more than 40 years, and there does not appear to be significant redevelopment in the area to conforming uses. This could indicate a lack of market demand for commercial uses in the area. Next, on page 21, there's excerpts from the Dixie Plan, and that begins starting on page 21, line 12. The text is the recommendation, and the map is the area that was suggested to be changed back to a residential designation that we have not seen was accomplished. And then finally, just wanted to point the commission to the future land use map on page 37. On the left-hand side is the existing future land use map. On the right-hand side is what the future land use map would look with approval of the request, changing the triangular-shaped property outlined in red to the high-density residential. And with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the staff? Member Gerard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some questions for staff, and I predicated that today. I sent an email with an outline, so hopefully some of the responses can flow a little easier. And to begin with, my questions pertain to the analysis staff's given, in which, as you read through it, there tends to be somewhat of an interpretation or a suggestive belief that functionality of roads, which is important for this request because the future land use elements policy in the FLU, which is 1.91, indicates you should be on a intersection of a collector arterial or arterial. You may recall recently we considered a request that had this same dilemma. There was a spokesperson from the audience that came forward and kind of spoke on that matter as to whether or not an interpretation of streets is relevant to a policy. And then my concern and my question was the policy actually uses the objective word, which is pretty standard bill of fare of shall. You can't subjectively read a word that says you shall be this if you're going to interpret it to be you may be. So the purpose of my question is I believe staff's analysis has tried to opine that the functionality of local streets can change, in which a local street can serve the purpose of a collector road. Traffic volumes increase. With traffic volume increasing, eventually you find yourself having to fix the road and widen it and making it more acceptable, and then it becomes a road that can be classified as a collector road as opposed to, by design, a local street. Back several, may have been more than a year, I had the same question regarding the similar matter, which is the city's comprehensive plan and its policy, its future land use element 1.91, might be something that should stop being interpretative and become amended. I looked at the staff report and it talks about 2006 and it's 2025, and the same policy exists and the same prohibition exists. The word shall could make someone think I can't ask a question, I won't get the right answer, I can't make a change. But in several instances, that's what we've done, is make a request that doesn't meet that standard, but on the other hand, it's supported because the road functions. So my question for staff is, on this one as well as others, has there been any indication that the policy on this flue may be somewhat archaic in the rapid changes that happen with growth and fast growth, that roads change and their functionality is what's more important than their designation? And I'm familiar enough to say that there are future land use policies and transportation elements that embrace the idea that a road that functions in the purpose of a collector or arterial can qualify, even though it may be regimented to a list that says it's a local street. And in this case, I shall not approve a request to amend a future land use to this because it's not on that kind of road. And so what I asked staff was, has there been a discussion in amending the policy to stop having to have the problem of dicing it up, knowing that it support's there, but we have a policy, so we kind of try to stretch it. And that's the question for staff. The background is merely to understand it's kind of significant if you're asking a governing body or a decision-making body to face a policy that says you may do this, you shall this if it's not that, and then say, well, on the other hand, it may be kind of like that, so we can support it. My point is I think it should be amended.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Member Grad, for sending your questions ahead of time. That was helpful. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to fully flesh out some answers for you, but just wanted to start by making sure the commission's on the same page with what policy we're looking at, and that's on page 18 of 67, policy 1.9.1. And it says, sites for high-intensity commercial development shall be located with convenient and direct access at arterial intersections. Collector arterial intersections are acceptable provided minimal access is necessary on the collector street. So this policy was pulled in as part of the analysis to show what the current designation, the commercial high intensity that's currently on the property, what the locational criteria is for that district. And then the following policy 114.6 at the bottom of the page is describing the high density residential. Going back to your concern about the policy maybe needing work, absolutely. If there's a policy that keeps being a barrier or is a challenge with the analysis, it's something that staff needs to have a chance to look at. And if that seems to be the case here when we're discussing applications, it would be helpful if the Planning and Zoning Commission would issue a recommendation in support of that to back staff's argument that this policy needs some looking at.
I appreciate that, and I think that's where I'm headed, is that in this instance, looking at the history and the background, you can see, in fact, I went far enough back to kind of really track it, and it went from this to that. So as planners are, they tend to see things like an artist. And today, we're going to do it in mauve is the color of the 70s, and in the 80s, it's going to be earth tones. Planners tend to do that by designating roads that serve things, even though when they may not make sense, because they're trying to plan the future. And the future comes, but the policy doesn't change. In this instance, I certainly looked at this in the positive sense. That's my view of it. But the negative sense is I think the policy should be, as part of a motion, if it gets there, that policy becomes an inhibition to applicants. If I were an applicant, all I did was read the book, I wouldn't make the application because I read the book to say I don't meet the criteria. But knowing that on several events we've actually supported it, we've actually had it approved, indifference to that policy tells me the policy needs to go and be amended. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments of staff? All right. Mr. Sorry, didn't. Why does his light not show up on my? Oh, it shows up as staff, or no? I don't know why it's not showing up, but don't take offense. You're not on my board, so thanks for noticing his light.
This is just time for questions directed at staff.
Yes.
I just want to be sure, who is the owner of this? I saw a couple of names listed. One of them was an LLC, Kelly Bremer, and then also BIG Properties LLC. They're two separate documents. I didn't check the dates.
Would you like to speak to the applicants, or would?
Yeah, I was going to call the applicant next. Maybe it's best
okay.
to ask to the applicant.
Sure. I mean, I'll wait till that.
Okay.
Also, you said that in the past, a recommendation was made in this 2008 study to change to a residential designation. Was that, and did they say in R1 or R2 or R3 or which?
To clarify, are you talking about the recommendation in the Dixie plan?
Yes.
It was not clear then. All it said was a residential designation. And it said that the intent was to try to eliminate those nonconformities. But it didn't specify which district.
Do you have any idea why that was not done? I mean,
Why a specific,
why at that time this recommendation was not followed?
I think because there are multiple housing typologies out there. We have quadruplexes, multifamily, and we have single family on the block to the east. And so since it was considering the subject property, the block to the east, and as well as a property to the south, it was trying to say residential designations incorporating both the single family and multifamily. But I don't know that to be 100% true. That's just my gut reaction.
Well, you weren't here then, probably. And if I've got this correct, the land in that area, I'm on the wrong page now, but what you said a minute ago about a certain proximity to intersections and feeder roads and main arterials and such. The current road, is that considered to be adequate for the current zoning, the commercial zoning?
So this property is triangular in shape and has 3 roadways on it, or adjacent to it. It only has access to the east. Let me see if I can find which page has the map that would be most helpful.
No, I mean, I know what it looks like. I just wonder, like, I mean, there's a lot of commercial zoning in that area, and I just wondered, I assume that's considered the road, I'm sorry, what is the name of that road there? Norwood. Norwood is considered to be sufficient for whatever commercial traffic would exist on that, in that area, in the commercial zoned lots.
So for that, I'd have to refer back to the comp plan policy we were discussing earlier. Go back to it. It's page 18. Policy 1.9.1. And it says sites for high-intensity commercial development shall be located with convenient and direct access at arterial intersections. And it continues on, but the purpose of including that, because that's not what's being requested tonight, the commercial high-intensity, which is what that policy refers to. That's the current designation on the property. And so the locational criteria in the policy down below, 114.6, is describing the high-density residential, which is what's being requested tonight on the property. And it says, such densities shall be located adjacent to at least a collector or arterial street.
What is the designation for Norwood?
Norwood is
What
a
type of road?
Local road.
If a number of the current commercial zonings in this area, including this one, were changed to high density R3 residential, is Norwood Road a road that would be considered sufficient for the traffic that would generate? Say there were 100 units there, say there were 300 units there, eventually. I think this is the start of that shift, and I suspect, given the interests involved, that would be where this would end up. Is that road considered capable of handling the amount of traffic that, say, a 100-unit or a 300-unit apartment building would generate?
Well, that type of analysis would be done during like a concurrency assessment. We do a concurrency assessment for the specific property, which showed that there would be no capacity issues for Norwood Avenue. However, what you're talking about is larger scale across the segment of the roadway. Could that be an issue? And that's possible. It's currently designated as a local road. However, what we noticed in our analysis is that because it doesn't have a bunch of driveways backing out onto it, it tends to act more like a collector because it has only several non-residential connections?
I saw the comparisons to Rock Pit Road, yeah. So the answer is kind of it depends.
The answer is I don't have the data to prove that that road can handle several properties with high-density residential on it.
Okay.
Mr. Graham?
To kind of follow and complement Mr. Rogers' questions, that was the second question I had for staff, was later in that appendage document, the park, I'll get the name of Park Avenue to Dre to North Dixie area study. So you have a land use which requires a road that doesn't serve in complement to the existing land use. And the request is to remove the incompatible land use and make one that's more compatible with the policies that require less significant road standards, arterial collector. What Eddie just mentioned is functionality, that it tends to serve the purpose of a collector, therefore it ought to be considered a collector, which is back to my first comment. If you read through the Dre North Dixie document written in 2006, in 5 years, they were going to widen Park Avenue to complement Park Avenue's service needs to work as a major collector road, which is, I suspect, what Park Avenue works as. It's not 5 years later, and it's not four-laned. But these are the matters that also should be addressed, that when the city looks at these types of development areas and makes a significant opinion that this is, and this came from staff's analysis, not the applicant in this particular study, but staff's summary conclusion was what we need to do is look to widen the road. And if you've ever heard the cart before the horse, that's what you have here. Except this one is to say the cart we're trying to find the horse for isn't working, so let's go find a different cart and fit it with a horse. That may be a poor analogy, but is there any movement towards looking at Park Avenue? I'm sure I know the answer, but just looking for the record.
I don't believe so. I'd have to ask Public Works for more information on that.
Thank you.
Member Faison?
So, Member Garrett, in your question about Park Avenue being widened, how does Park Avenue being widened between Park Avenue and Drayfield impact what's going over on Norwood?
My opinion reading it and knowing that intersection is that you've got a backbone spine road for servicing a whole lot of Titusville, which is Park Avenue. At some point, widening, quote unquote, a road right of way to accomplish a collector road design would envision that Park Avenue would probably change the whole attribute of the intersection with Dre at what used to be Dre Field. They wouldn't just four-lane the road as most people look at it. They would be looking at a total redevelopment. That probably changes significantly the intersection one day, or how it would look one day where it comes out to US 1. It's a bigger picture, and that's what they said they could do in 5 years in 2006. It's significant that if you're going to develop, redevelop, and change land uses in an area like this, and the supporting necessity is road servicing, how much capacity, and for Mr. Rogers' concerns, the analysis I think staff's talking about is one that occurs later when they look at the level of service and they have to get a report as to whether the road can accept the new volumes of traffic. And the problem with that is it accepts new volumes of traffic until it can no longer accept new volumes of traffic. It fails, and then you don't have any development other than what's already there. And that's why they had the 2006 study that said, yes, we think we know what we need to do, and one of those things we need to do is widen Park Avenue in preparation for new development or redevelopment. And this is kind of following that suit from what I can deduce.
But in 2006, right?
That's what it said.
Going into 2006, that area was being utilized differently. So currently, right, what this applicant is asking for is that the property in question is currently commercial, high intensity, but that whole area is all residential. And so what's on the table today, if there were to be changes, wouldn't change the fact that that probably would be impacted, whether we change it today or not. It's still going to get impacted.
To answer your question, I think it would be likely that a high-intensity commercial land use would impact the road network system more intensely than residential.
Correct.
And what I'm looking at this, my own read of this is they had a decision made where they thought the future was bright, and it needed to be this to support development of Titusville, and commercial pays obviously a different tax burden than residential and has a different impact on services than residential. That plan didn't work.
Correct.
Probably because they didn't have a four-laning program in 5 years from 2006 to widen Park Avenue and fix the intersection. So now what we're doing is putting the milk back in the bottle after it's spilt.
Yep.
By making this request. And that's why I'm trying to say to Eddie, and part of my concern, this is the third time this same policy, although this is retroactively, I'm talking about the past and the changes, the matter being reviewed. The past is still what it is an interpretive policy that we should allow these intense commercial land uses even though we don't have adequate roadways. That was the point just a few weeks ago. That was the point about a year and a half ago. My point is we keep kicking that can. Somebody needs to change the policy to reflect the needs. Thank you.
Member Grant.
So what are you suggesting? Just tell
Just
me,
asking
what are
questions
you
right now.
asking for? I mean, I'm confused. All right? What we're doing is trying to right a wrong that was done back in, well, whatever, a long time ago. Okay? It sounds like what you're trying to do is, maybe you should do like Eddie said and make us a motion for what you're trying to say here. Okay? Separate from what this particular item is about.
To respond, that's all correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I have to, in my own mind, on the record, explain what my question was.
I understand that.
My question is that we have an incompatible land use with a future land use element. One came before the other. We're making an application to change something which doesn't demand the same application, that future land use element. But within the policy and within the reading, there's obviously a need for having a more serviceable road than a local street. The question Mr. Rogers had was Norwood is a local street. My rhetorical statement was I think Norwood functions as a collector road. I think staff is kind of in the opinion that the road kind of functions that way, so it should qualifiably allow this applicant to seek and hopefully obtain the land use change. But underlying is still this concern that you have this poor policy that everyone wants to deviate from, and we've had two requests like that in my tenure, and it's like it just in 2 years we have a recurrent question that rises by interpretation. I'm not in favor of that.
Okay.
Member Grod, if you would like to, since you've laid out everything on the subject matter that you would like to make a motion on, if you'd like to get that, dispose of that question now, since it's related to this subject of this SSA, you could make that motion now and then move into the public hearing for the actual item that's on the agenda.
I absolutely agree, and that I just tried to get the predicate out there so everybody understood my madness. So yes, I would certainly, Eddie, emphasize, and I hope the members here will support that policy 191 of the future land use element needs to be examined for its applicability, and it needs to be, I think, it needs to embrace a more flexible standard and one that would allow staff, by recognizing such things as functionality and the service of roads, allowing land uses to reflect that servicing, that capacity, that usefulness, as opposed to regimenting it to a list, a table. This road's on that list. That's just too regimented, and the policy's antiquated.
Concise motions, though.
Change policy 1.9.1 of the future land use element to embrace determining factors, including, I'm groping for the word, functionality of a road to qualifiably make it a collector arterial by determination.
So Chelsea, my understanding is we can take that motion, turn it into a recommendation to council to direct staff to
I think that's what he meant by his motion, that's
Okay.
what that would be. And
Okay.
correct me, yes, okay. So now we would just need a second
We have
and
a
you can
second.
vote on that.
I second.
All right, second by member Faison. Any comments? Discussion?
I was just gonna say that does come up a lot, and I think we do need clarity on it for sure, so, yeah.
Fully agree. All right, roll call vote.
Member Gerard,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Aton,
Yes.
Member Childs,
Yes.
Member Mack,
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Faison?
Yes.
Member Scully?
Yes.
Okay. That said, we've got.
Thank you.
A good point. Glad you brought it up, because it does seem to be confusing and indirect conflict with certain things. And in that, it seems like that's a lot of this is why you brought it up. So I think we can open the public hearing and hear from the applicant, please. Just state your name and
First time,
address for the record,
Edward
please.
Bremer. I'm one of the co-owners of the LLC. It's Big Properties. We bought the property in 2017. It was pretty dilapidated at the time. We renovated the whole thing, and we have a good group of tenants in there. And we actually just recently realized that it had, the zoning had changed on it. We didn't look far back enough to realize that. And our concern was that, if it was damaged or burnt down or something like that, excuse me, that we couldn't rebuild it. And that's why we're here today.
Questions from Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Bremer, what is your profession?
I own a carpet cleaning company.
Okay. And what is, was my question. You said there was one of the owners, the other owner is BIG Properties LLC?
Yes, yeah, that's my wife, Kelly
Kelly
Bremer.
Bremer, sorry.
Yes.
Now, does this BIG Properties LLC have any connections in Baltimore, Maryland?
No, sir.
Not at all.
No. It's just local.
Okay. I suppose maybe there are a number of BIG Properties LLCs. Thank you.
So you currently have no huge renovation plans or anything that's getting blocked by the current inability to, as Eddie said in the opening, that if more than 50%, because it's a non-conforming property under the current zoning, you're not necessarily doing this to make any massive changes, but you're doing it so that when or if something happened, that you're conforming and not non-conforming. Is that accurate?
Yes, like I said, we renovated it. We planned on keeping it, and it's a good rental property. I have pretty much, long-term tenants in there now, and again, we just wanted to protect ourselves in case it was something happened to it. Storm damage or it burns down or something. We wouldn't be able to, rebuild it what it is now.
And this may be for Eddie, I don't know, that when the renovations were done, it wasn't anything that triggered as it related to the non-conforming issue. So really what didn't need to be addressed then?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions or discussions for the applicant? Member Faison?
Over this way, sir. How you doing?
Sir.
Mr. Bremer?
Yes.
Thank you for coming up today. So just so that we all are clear, can you give us a scenario of where if you were to lose that building, how it would not be rebuilt with the 50% still being in place? Could you give us a scenario of what that might look like so we all can kind of understand what you're asking?
Just according to the zoning, I guess, between the commercial zoning and the residential zoning, it being zoned commercial now, I don't know how and exactly what section that law is written, because, I'm not an expert on that stuff. Right. But I know that if it does burn down more than 50% destruction, it can't be rebuilt as a residential thing. It would have to be redone as a commercial property, which it's odd in that area because it's surrounded by homes and apartments. So like you would be building something commercial right in the middle of a bunch of homes. Like if you built warehouses or something like that, it would it would look odd, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I bring that up because there was a time where we were gonna buy an old building, and in order for us to rehab that area, we had to keep one wall standing
Right.
and then build off that wall, because if that wall would have fell, we've lost all those grandfather clauses for that property. And
Understood.
that's kind of at play here. So that if this guy was to have a complete total loss, he wouldn't be able to build his residence back and his income producing property. So what he's asking is to change to R3 so that if he were to have a total loss, he could rebuild on that same property.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Member Rogers?
Sorry, not to beat a dead horse, it'll be the last time. Mr. Member, so you all don't have any connection whatsoever in Baltimore with Greenberg Gibbons development firm?
Sir, I've never heard of that before. I have no idea what any of that is.
Thanks very much.
Anyone else? Thank you. Do we have any cards?
I have one other card for Teresa Bissalon.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, if no other cards, then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Member Garage.
I'm on a roll. I'd like to follow staff's recommendation and make a recommendation to the members to approve the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment as requested.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Member Grant. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Faison,
Yes.
Member Childs,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Aton,
Yes.
Member Gerard,
Yes?
Member Mack,
Yes.
Member Scully.
Yes.
Congratulations, passed unanimously.
Staff can do the rezoning.
We need that as a separate motion? Yes, sir. All right. Can I get a motion for the rezoning?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval for the rezoning for the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment number 8-2024.
Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, for the other one. I went to the other one. So for 10-2024.
I second.
Seconded by Member Faison. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Faison,
Yes.
Member Mack,
Yes.
Member Gerard,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Aton,
Yes.
Member Childs.
Yes.
Secretary Grant,
Yes.
Member Scully.
Yes.
That also passes unanimously. Thank you. Second item, Eddie?
Chairman, just so the audience is aware, that item will be heard by City Council on February 25th. The next item is item D2, Small Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment number 8-2024, and the applicant has requested that the item be tabled to March 5th, Planning and Zoning Commission. So we'll advertise that and bring it to you March 5th.
Okay, and just to verify, Chelsea, we don't need any motion or anything on this one, correct?
Staff has informed me that the item will be re-advertised, so no action is required on this item, but it was put in for informational purposes.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes.
Chairman,
Yes,
you want to let the members know that it's been passed and it's going to be heard on the 25th of February? They're sitting there. I think they're kind of.
oh, yeah, Eddie said when it'll be heard, but it did pass, you're all set, and council's hearing it on, what was the date again, Eddie?
The 25th of February.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we have a second petitions and requests for the public present. Again, don't have to fill out a card. If you got anything to say, you're welcome to come to the podium and address us right now. Anyone have anything?
Come on up.
Come on up. Sure. Did you want to come up or not?
Since the item was tabled, I don't know, I can speak on, it's the Varna Avenue one.
So petitions and requests is meant for all non-agenda items. So if it's not on the agenda, something that's not on the agenda is what you should be speaking on under petitions and requests. Otherwise, we'll have the Varna Avenue item at the March 5th Planning and Zoning meeting.
Thank you, then. Anyone else? With that, what else? I guess we move on to reports. Staff?
Thank you, sir. First, just want to congratulate our two new members. Excited to have you on board. Looking forward to working with you all. Next, just wanted to remind, it's just a general housekeeping reminder that when Lori Dargy sends out emails with the agenda packet, she also asks for two things. One is to let her know that you will or will not be in attendance at the meeting, and that helps us to establish that we have quorum and don't have to cancel the meeting at the last minute. So if you can please remember to let Lori know whether you will or will not attend when you receive that email from her with the agenda packet. And the other is that staff is always here to have a pre-meeting. If you have questions about the agenda, if you'd like to set up a meeting, in that email, Lori sends out there's a little blurb in there that says staff is looking to meet. So if at any point you have additional questions or just want to explore something, learn more about the code, please take that opportunity. We'll clear our schedules for you. Thanks.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Last
Sorry,
week,
Member Rogers, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I'll wait till the city attorney speaks.
Okay.
thank you. Last week, the city received notice that our school board member liaison, Jacqueline McLaughlin, has submitted her resignation. And so we are awaiting another suggested appointment from the school board liaison, Karen Black.
That explains the empty seat, I guess. Thank you. I guess I'm next. Thanks for bearing with me as I figure all this stuff out. So I appreciate the support, and I will certainly look forward to probably a few times a year that the vice chairman will get to sit in this spot, because I do run a business and from time to time have to travel. So there may be a few times, but certainly this is make my best efforts to try to attend and participate if at all possible. That said, members, Member Rogers, you had your light on?
I just wanted to direct a question to you, Mr. Chairman, and to the city attorney. In a situation like we just had over here, where someone comes and wants to speak but doesn't realize when they should speak, and that time passes, is it, there are two, we've got, petitions and requests. I guess what I was going to ask is, can they be fit back in? She has since left, but I mean, can they be put back?
She made it clear that she wanted to speak on the agenda item that wasn't being heard, and I would recommend anybody for making comments on an agenda item that's not being heard, because the applicants, as stated in the agenda packet, has pushed the date to March. And for one member of the community to come in and speak on something that's not going to be heard by this commission for another month wouldn't make sense.
That's an excellent answer, and I agree.
Thank you. Any other members? Member
Yeah.
Child?
I just wanted to
Vice
add.
Chairman Child?
Thank you. I just wanted to add on to what you said at the beginning of the meeting, that Joe Richardson, as a chair, was a great. He taught me a lot of stuff about planning and zoning, and you could see his passion for Titusville, and he put everything into it. And I was trying to remember when I was coming. I was like, did he ever miss a meeting? I don't even know
He
if he
didn't.
I don't. Yeah.
That's why I fumbled
He
around so much. I never had to.
I never had to fill in. He was, he has his mobility issues, but he's still able to come in every time. And I really appreciated everything that he taught
Absolutely.
us. So thank you.
Taught me a lot as well. So,
And thank you for electing me vice chair,
thank you.
I think. I don't know.
We'll see. I'll do my best. All right. That said, up.
I just wanted to speak out and welcome the new members. And I was a new member too, so even though I may have a background in this stuff, it was challenging to sit up here with the lights in your face and the camera running. And I welcome your attendance at the meetings as well as your overview and participation. And I will begin by apologizing. I tend to be long-winded in my discussions. I have this inherent policy to begin with an egg and hatch a chicken, though, so I'm really sorry about that. I'll cut to the omelet maybe one day pretty soon.
All right, anyone have anything else? Up, member Face.
Last but not least, number one, again, I'd like to also welcome our new members. And one of the things I like to always do is encourage members of our community to get involved. Don't let these be the last two new members. If you have a voice, that means there's somebody in the community who thinks just like you, and your voice needs to be heard. So please take the time, spread the word. Look downstairs on the board are some vacancies. Start filling those vacancies. Represent your community. If you love this community, whoever you are, whether you're in this room today or you're out there on YouTube, please get involved with the process. We need to have your voice be heard. So thank you, guys.
Yeah. I was going to add, don't you think we had enough applicants? Wow, that was great. I mean, you guys made the cut from, like, I don't know how many there were, but I was watching the meeting. There were tons of them. So
Yeah, from
congratulations on making the cut.
You and I
too.
started about the same time.
Yeah.
It's
And there was only like two, or, it was crazy. But so maybe we shouldn't advertise it too much right now. Thanks.
yeah. That's very
I'm worried about this gentleman here. What's your name again, sir?
John,
John?
you're making us look bad.
John, yeah, we're casual. If you don't mind. Thank you, sir.
All right, that's it. Anyone else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.